Children are the future. We can all agree that this is a fact. But when those that are past their prime hold on to power, it makes it difficult for these children to be impactful. But if you look all over the world, you realize the kids are getting tired. My name is Ashwin Berry. It's time for Second Take.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
Let's get into it. President Yoweri Museveni, Uganda's long-standing ruler who has outlasted entire generations of leaders, issued an imperious statement on Thursday in response to the Gen Z-led protests that shook the nation. The protests, a source of immense anxiety for the regime, were met with predictable condemnation. Fellow Ugandans, especially the Bazukulu, Museveni began, addressing the younger generation with a paternalistic air as if they were still nestled comfortably under his decades-long rule. I want to congratulate the armed forces and the security forces and the Wananchi for foiling or not participating in the bad demonstration planned for Tuesday. Museveni, ever the master of hyperbole, attributed the unrest to the usual suspects, foreign meddlers whose evil machinations have apparently haunted Africa for 600 years, slave trade, colonialism, neo-colonialism, genocide, economic exploitation. Museveni dusted off the entire historical laundry list to remind everyone that Uganda, under his steadfast guidance, would never succumb to such shallow schemes. In a classic move, he painted the protesters as pawns in a grand conspiracy. The second element was that some of the authors and participants of the demonstrations were planning very bad things against the people of Uganda. Those very bad things will come out in court when those arrested are being tried, Museveni declared, ensuring that the public remained suitably alarmed and distrustful. Being a seasoned autocrat, he acknowledged that some demonstrators might have been innocently unaware of the foreign funding and the dastardly plans. It is possible that some of the participants did not know of the planned foreign funding and the planned bad things. That is why they should have listened to the police advice not to go on with the demonstration. But they rubbished the police advice, he admonished, as if any deviation from his omniscient wisdom was an act of folly. And in a final flourish of irony, Museveni proclaimed his supposed support for legitimate, peaceful protests. Otherwise, if it was a patriotic anti-corruption, peaceful demonstration coordinated with the police, I would have been the first one to join, he said, perhaps imagining himself as the unlikely hero of a movement he has systematically crushed for decades. Thus, in a single speech, Museveni managed to reframe a grassroots protest as a foreign conspiracy, praise his security forces for quelling dissent, and position himself as a champion of the very freedoms he has spent a lifetime undermining. Truly, the man has mastered the art of political theater, and it seems like Ugandan Gen Zs are tired of Museveni's show, and it's because it's had a 40-year encore.
Entries are now open for the Republican Bridal Couple of the Year competition. Couples married between 1 March and 31 May 2024 have until 31 July of this year to enter the first round of the Republican Bridal Couple of the Year competition. One of the top 10 couples will be chosen from this pool to participate in the final, taking place in May 2025. To better your chance of reaching the final, enter now. To enter, simply WhatsApp #Bridal2025 to 085 785 6231 and follow the on-screen instructions, or scan this QR code.
So, Joe Biden dropped out of the US presidential race. Now, there are several reasons he dropped out, including an embarrassing debate performance. As for Second Take, we would like to say goodbye to our friend Joe Beasy by recapping some of the moments we zoned in on. Yep, it was fun. American leadership is what holds the world together, said Biden. And I couldn't figure out if that was Father Time making another dramatic feature or if he actually believed what he was saying. Either way, much like the Biden administration's recent decision to build 20 miles of wall at the Mexican border, the irony was not lost on me. Mr. Biden said America held the world together. So in the spirit of togetherness of mind and logic, I should let you know that the CIA has confirmed a total of 7 countries that the US has overthrown, beginning with Iran in 1953, Guatemala 1954, that's back to back, followed by Congo in 1960, Dominican Republic in 1961, another double shot of Americano Democracia, which must have resulted in a regime change hangover because the country took a 2-year break. And then the USA picked up where they left off with South Vietnam, Brazil, and Chile. And for some more perspective, it has invaded 84 out of 194 countries recognized by United Nations. Yet somehow, having nose and gun barrel in other countries' business, especially when the business of oil is involved, is considered holding the world together. That said, everyone simply acts on what they know. And considering the glaring political, racial, and economic divisions in the USA, and the fact that former President Donald Trump stands accused of inciting an attempted coup in January 2021, it's safe to say that the lack of charity begins at home. Yes, home, where most men the same age as Joe Biden spend their time. Coming in swinging with the kind of geopolitical prowess that can have us all re-evaluating world maps, US President Joe Biden showcased his unparalleled ability to traverse the labyrinth of international relations. Fresh off the heels of concerns regarding his cognitive fitness, President Biden, in a dazzling linguistic acrobatics routine, managed to make Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi the head of Mexico, at least in his head. Have a look.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. My memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
Oh, and here's an honorable mention.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Thank you so much.
Moments like that defined the end of Biden's reign, but he managed a decent political dismount.
You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
So, just like that, Joe Beasy called it a day when he could have stuck it out like some of his African age mates. He passed the torch to Kamala Harris, who clearly did not fall out of a coconut tree. She exists in the context of all which she lives and what came before her, and she hit the ground swinging.
I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Okay, Kamala, I see you, and we all know who also saw you, and he had some choice words of his own.
If Kamala Harris gets in, she would be the most radical far-left extremist ever to occupy the White House times 10. There's never been a lunatic like this in the White House, and we've had some bad ones. So, well, you know that. That's what happens. That's what happens. These are nasty people, the Democrats, so we better beat them or we're not going to have a country left. You're not going to have a country left. So now we have a new victim to defeat. Lion Kamala Harris, Lion, L-Y-I-N apostrophe. The most incompetent and far-left vice president in American history. By the way, they did a poll. She was rated the worst vice president in history. I've never seen that poll before, but that's the poll. Together we will win North Carolina in an epic landslide. We're way ahead in the polls. And we will take back that beautiful White House, and we will very simply make America great again. So now they bring in this one who's worse than him. She's worse than him because he's a fake liberal. You know, he wasn't that liberal. He was fake. She's a real liberal. She really is a real liberal. She's much worse than him. And she's got a new line, you know. She's going, I'm the prosecutor. She's one of the worst prosecutors in history. She destroyed San Francisco. I'm the prosecutor, and he's the convicted felon or something. A radical left judge in an area where every one of these cases, every one of them is brought by them. So think of it. They get me to that position, and then their campaign says, I'm the prosecutor, and he is the convicted felon. That's their campaign. I don't think people are going to buy it. If Kamala will lie to you so brazenly about Joe Biden's mental incapacity, then she will lie to you about anything. She can never, ever be trusted. She can't be trusted. And just like crooked Joe Biden, Kamala Harris is unfit to lead. She's unfit to lead. She'll destroy our country in a year. This country will be destroyed. A vote for Kamala is a vote for 4 more years of dishonesty, incompetence, weakness, and failure.
Safe to say the battle lines are drawn and there is no love lost between these two competitors. That said, records show Donald Trump and Ivanka Trump once made donations to Kamala's California Attorney General re-election bid. So he hasn't always felt this way about her, but he knows that he can never soften his stance given his support base, which remains more prepared to be radicalized than hungry student activists. Heartwarming moment up next.
Hello, Namapia! Ons is by die kus en ons is lit.
By the Easter shot.
Okay! Yeah. Okay, so yes. Please, today you make sure that we are fed. Sorry, I see.
Fighting between Sudan's army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces has driven more than 10 million people from their homes. That's 20% of the population. It is the world's largest displacement crisis. The war has also left half of the population of about 50 million facing a hunger crisis and in need of humanitarian aid, the most anywhere in the world. Having arrived in Libya, Mustafa and her family moved from one town to another before settling in Misrata. This is her incredible, courageous story.
At a garage in Libya's Misrata, Asara Mustafa is hard at work, changing the oil in a car. It's a job that's usually reserved for men, both in Libya and in the pharmacy student's country, Sudan. But having fled war back home, it's a way for Mustafa to support her mother, brother, and 2 sisters. She has, she says, left her studies and her ambitions behind.
We used to live in Niala in the middle of war, conflict, theft and looting. We had to get out of Niala due to the intense fighting. We were looking for a safe place to seek refuge. Libya was our first option because it's close to us. We collected some money to flee and the journey was long. It lasted between 8 to 10 days in the desert. It was very, very harsh with the big cars and the cattle until we reached Kufra.
Fighting between Sudan's army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces has driven more than 10 million people from their homes. That's 20% of the population. It is the world's largest displacement crisis. The war has also left half the population of about 50 million facing a hunger crisis and in need of humanitarian aid, the most anywhere in the world. Having arrived in Libya, Mustafa and her family moved from one town to another before settling in Misrata. That's after applying for refugee status in the capital Tripoli. Her dream, she says, is to go to the United States, a place where she can resume her studies away from the horrors of war.
In our second heartwarming story, members of the refugee Olympic team made their way to the Olympic Village, where they are housed alongside the rest of the athletes as they prepared to compete for gold at the Summer Games. Before arriving in Paris, the team gathered in the historic town of Bayeux in Normandy for a pre-games welcome event. There they met their teammates and squeezed in some training at state-of-the-art facilities. The refugee Olympic team comprises 37 athletes from 12 different countries, competing in 12 different sports. This team in Paris was the largest ever and marked the third consecutive Olympic Games to field the team. Managed by the Olympic Refugee Foundation, the refugee team allowed elite athletes who would not otherwise have had the chance to compete on the sporting world's biggest stage.
Yeah, it's really good and it's really important to have this training camp before our race in Paris. Like now we get time to know each other. Like we live in different host country, and here like we met and we are like from different background. We practice different sport, but yeah, it was really important. And yeah, I hope we inspire the other refugees and we will do our best to make proud this team.
Yeah, I'm so grateful and thankful about this program that they had to support the athlete. I use it for my training camps and my races that I had in Sweden and outside of Sweden. And it was a big support to know that there are places to sleep and training.
Oh, my preparation is only I want to train well, to go and run. Also, my preparation is to prepare to go and run game, to improve time, also to win, to get number 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, oneup2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact agenda@synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Our TikTok of the week is also heartwarming. Have a look at this unique Zimbabwean story.
Story time. My dad lives up in the mountains in the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe in Africa. And he lives in a little house in the middle of nowhere with no internet and just enough solar electricity to power his lights and charge his phone. Now, you might be wondering why my dad lives like this. And there are a few reasons. Firstly, his mother, my grandmother, built that little house with her bare hands, and she and my granddad are both buried in the garden under an apple tree. And every morning, my dad sits on a bench beside that tree and drinks his coffee with them. Another reason is that where he lives might be one of the most beautiful places in the entire world. You're also probably wondering how my dad makes money. And the truth is, he doesn't make much money. But the reason for that, I think, is that he's just too good of a person. You see, what my dad does is he builds beehives, and then he takes those beehives to all the communities in the surrounding area, and he gives them to whoever wants them, no strings attached. And he says to those people, if you let me teach you how to keep bees ethically and sustainably, and you don't spray pesticides on the plants that they pollinate, you can bring me the honey that the bees produce, and I'll buy it from you. And so that's what they do. Whether it's by foot or oxen cart or carrying it on their bicycle. Some months my dad gets 2 tons of honey delivered to him from the local communities. My dad then naturally processes the honey, packages it, and sells it in the capital city, Harare. And you might think that this seems like a pretty good way to make money. But you see, my dad believes in paying people fairly, more than fairly, and I'm certain he pays more for his honey than anybody else in the country. He also believes in keeping his honey affordable so that everyone can buy it. So after everything, my dad barely makes $1 for each jar of honey that he sells. And I'm not being biased when I say this is the most delicious honey you could ever taste. Now, my dad has been offered countless opportunities to sell or scale his business for a lot of money, but he's always refused to sign the contracts because no one could commit to his ethical and sustainable terms. Needless to say, my dad does not do this for the money. He does it because he believes in helping people. He believes in protecting nature. He believes that communities should look after each other. And he believes in the goodness of people. Because that's the kind of person that his parents raised him to be. And I'm privileged to say that it's the kind of person my dad raised me to be. Unfortunately, money is a necessity in this life. And in order for my dad to keep helping people and support communities and keep protecting bees and the surrounding ecosystems, he does need money. And I don't expect many people to see this TikTok, but I have seen amazing things happen on this app. So I've set up a GoFundMe to help my dad keep doing what he's doing. And if you believe in what he's doing as much as I do, even the smallest donation would mean the world to him. Because I believe that kindness and goodness is infectious. And I think we need more people like my dad in this world.
My name is Ashwin Berry, and I've truly enjoyed bringing you Second Take for yet another exciting episode. Of course, when you have pensioners all over the place, it goes a little slower than you expect. But it is exciting times indeed. Next week, Second Take will be live from Zambia, and the week after from Zimbabwe, as we get the news on the ground as to what Africans are up to and how they feel about their political climate. But from me, Ashwin Berry, cheers.